Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. First off, thank you so much for listening. If you are new to my world, I appreciate you being here, and I am so honored that you are here. This episode is actually going to be a response to to my recording last week, which was about, are you avoiding it or just not ready? That is not the actual title of it, but that's what it was about. So let me see if I can pull up the actual title of it. So it was not ready or simply avoiding. How to know the difference and take action anyway. And so for that episode, I talked very honestly about me absolutely avoiding a conversation with my family. I was a little annoyed and hurt and upset, and just go ahead and take a listen to that episode, right? It is a great episode. I did have somebody ask, and this was an excellent question, and I love it. And so I'm going to talk about that today. So her question was essentially, how do you have this conversation with somebody? How would you start kind of this uncomfortable conversation with someone? And she was referring to specifically her neighbors. She lives in a condo environment, I would assume, based off of, kind of a shared space. And their neighbors smoke, and that smoke tends to come into their house. And so she was like, what do I do? How do I approach this? How do I have this conversation? Because she said her husband is very much, don't even worry about it, leave it alone, right? But here lies in the problem, right? So if you let it go, per se, quote unquote, leave it alone, but you actually aren't leaving it alone, you're just avoiding it, that resentment will start to build. And then it's going to come out in a passive aggressive kind of way, which I'm going to talk about more on another episode, right? But then it will be like these snarky little things, and then you get annoyed at just seeing them at the mailbox, and you're no longer neighborly. Like, that's what happens with resentment. And simply because you're not willing to have this uncomfortable conversation. And then it's like, you don't want to run into that person when you're having a great day because you're like energetically not prepared for it, right? And so how do you have this conversation with your neighbors, right? How do we go about this? So, and I did respond in a chat, but I think it's much better to have a video response here or listen to the podcast, because this happens a lot to us, right? Like, how do we respond in these uncomfortable situations in which we're still able to be friendly after that, right? And this is actually what I will be talking about in greater detail in my rhetoric program. It's a master class. It's a single session, 90-minute session. I am doing it live on Thursday, October 23rd for 90 minutes. It's going to be 111, and we're going to talk about these things. How do you have this conversation? How do you show up in a space and be able to effectively communicate without all of the emotion, right? Making sure that you're understood, because as you know, if you've listened to any of me at any time, when emotions is high, intelligence is low. And so you do really want to rehearse these conversations if they're not something that you're used to having, because chances are emotions are going to get high. You're going to say something that you don't want to say, and you can't take that back, right? So in this instance, where it is your neighbor, what I recommended is, number one, assume that they have no idea that the smoke is coming into your house, because chances are they don't. Most of us are very self-absorbed, and so we don't know how we are impacting other people, right? Either that or we just don't care, because part of it is we're so concerned about how we're showing up to ourselves, and we say a lot of things to ourselves nevertheless, right? So number one, assume that they don't know that the smoke is coming into your house. Plain and simple, right? Now, a good way to do this and to have this conversation is, how would you want to be approached? Now, it may not be how they want to be approached, but at least it's a better starting point than going in there very defensive, right? And angry and annoyed about it. So assume they don't know that the smoke is going into the house, okay? And then what I like to do is just say, hey, like, you know, if you see them at the mailbox or something, ask them if they are able to talk to you for a few minutes. Say, hey, like, you know, I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes. Do you have some time right now? Or, you know, do you have some time later? Because chances are, if you catch them at the mailbox, they may be rushing, right? Or they've just parked their car, or whatever it is, right? They may be rushing and genuinely not have the time, but want to communicate with you later. And so again, I like to ask for a time. Do you have a few minutes to chat with me right now? Or, you know, do you have some time this afternoon? There's something I wanted to talk to you about, right? Easy peasy, okay? Then what I do recommend doing is walking through this conversation in your head. Play it through your head several times to kind of figure out what it is that you actually want to say. But what you do want to say is, again, assume that they don't know that the smoke is coming into your house. And then say, you know, something like, hey, you know, I know that we live in really close quarters, but I just wanted to let you know, like, the smoke at night is coming into our house. Is there any way that we could, like, set up a fan, you know, or put something out there so that it's not blowing into our house at night, because it really is starting to bother us in the house, right? Now, if they're Karen, they're gonna be pissed about this, right? Like, but if they are not a Karen, quote unquote Karen, right? They're probably going to go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the smoke was going into your house. Like, yeah, let's set up a fan or something. Or if there isn't a fan that they can put on the patio, you can always stick one up on your window by the back patio and blow the air out, right? Also an option, okay? So there are options around this, but I would recommend having a conversation. Absolutely, because otherwise, one, it's gonna continue to fester. Right? My husband is a lay in wait kind of a guy where he's like, whatever, it doesn't really matter to me, but I like to have the conversation. I like to shake out the rug and have the conversation. He's very much a sweep it under the rug. Let's totally not pay attention to it. It's not a big deal, is what he says a lot, right? It's not a big deal. I don't know why you're so upset, right? You're like, because it bothers me, right? Now, in the same token, okay, I am very familiar with this kind of a situation because we actually live on the other side of our fence is a commercial property, and it seems to be the smoking area right there where we sit by our pool, right? And the smoke just wafts over. Now, I'm not going to walk over there to every single person and tell them to stop smoking there, but I do know that I will be having a conversation with the owner within the next few months and saying, hey, can we put a no smoking sign right there? Because when they smoke right there, it just comes right into our backyard and it smells terrible. And we really just, you know, can we just put a no smoking sign there? Can they smoke somewhere else on your property? Kind of a thing, right? Because I'm not going to go up to every stranger and say, hey, don't smoke here, because I don't want to draw attention to the fact that most of the time they're oblivious to the fact that I'm even on the other side of the fence, right? So don't want to do that, right? But that is a conversation I can have with the owner and say, hey, like, you know, there is a lot of smoke coming into our yard lately. Can we just put like a no smoking sign right here? Right? Is that possible? Just so they're not right there smoking. So again, in terms of this conversation with somebody, I do have a general format that I follow when I'm having these conversations. But really, like, if you're not willing to get uncomfortable for the conversation, then that person is probably not worth the conversation, right? Again, I'm not going to go tell total strangers not to smoke on a commercial property right there, right? Like, I'm not going to do it because it's not worth the conversation. Now, if it is somebody I'm sharing a wall with, somebody I'm sharing a living quarters with, I will have the conversation, because otherwise that's going to just build and be resentful. And, you want to feel good about the conversation. So again, how would you want someone to approach you is an easy way to say that, right? For me, I would want someone to, one, set aside some time for it, right? I really don't love being blindsided by something, okay? Two, something that would make me feel good about the conversation is, hey, here's the problem, here's a solution, right? I've already thought of a solution for this, because if somebody just brings me a problem, I kind of want to kick them in the face, right? But if you say, hey, here's the problem, and oh, here's a solution that we could do, is this something we could work on? I'm much more apt to have that conversation with you and to leave the conversation feeling great. Like, you want both parties to leave this conversation feeling great. And if you do need to deep dive into this, I do have some resources in my rhetoric course. So you can definitely reach out to me for that. I'm very excited about this course that I'm doing. Again, 90 minutes. It's going to be great. Very, very good. So rhetoric, the art of effective communication, that will be tomorrow. So I hope that answers your question. And I love these questions. So if you have more questions on YouTube or Instagram, you listen to an episode, you watch an episode, and you've got some questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can comment on the YouTube video itself, or you can find me on Instagram, Stephanie Snyder, Ph.D., and you can send me a message and say, hey, I've got a question about this. How, can you dive into that? And I would be happy to. I love this. Love it. So fun for me. Okay, so I hope that helped. Again, if you have any other questions, please let me know. And then I'm going to sign off here and do another episode, because it is the batch day, right? So I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.